Keynote by Mr. Kwame Ulmer.
Good morning. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll have a view of what's happening in MedTech and globally, but we'll spend a lot of time talking about what's happening in the United States. And I'm delighted to spend some time to have this conversation with you. I'm Kwame Ulmer, and I've been fortunate enough to work in this sector for 21 years. I spent 12 years at the FDA evaluating these medical technologies, and approximately 11 years working with early-stage companies, either helping them navigate the FDA or as an investor at Wavemaker 360 Health. So I'll be talking about the climate of investing, the regulatory landscape, and some challenges in reimbursement in the United States. We'll also end this conversation with some insights for you, particularly for companies that are perhaps starting in the EU but plan to launch in the United States. I will preface this that many of the examples that we go through will have a focus on digital health technologies, not the wellness products that were alluded to, but regulated products that are prescription digital therapeutics or diagnostics to help people with specific diseases or conditions. So what is the investment climate? I would characterize it as flat. We'll see some data from HSBC about the number of deals that have happened globally in early stage and total deal size, but we're a return in some sense to normalcy in that we had some heady, frothy days of economic activity in the United States, which was a result of a high growth environment. Now we're getting back to the more classic pre-pandemic valuations and investments. And we'll talk about how it's even more important now to de-risk the FDA for early stage companies who plan to launch in the United States. I know I'm in Malta, but if you're planning to come to the United States, the FDA is important. So why did the robber rob the bank? This is maybe an American joke, because that's where the money is. Why are startups innovating in digital health? Because that's where the capital has been poured into over the last several years. The black chart, the black bar, shows investment in venture capital and digital health solutions in the United States over the last several years. The relatively flat green line is traditional medical devices. So even though we've seen some hiccups in the prescription digital therapeutic world, I believe we'll continue to see innovation and investment in that space as the regulatory and reimbursement framework catches up with these innovative solutions that really are driving outcomes. This is some research I was fortunate to do with Dr. Jennifer McKaney at the University of California, Los Angeles. The main takeaway is for the two main ways that products get to market, 510K and de novo in the United States, the time from concept to clearance is approximately twice as long for the de novo products. These are the more novel, innovative technologies in the regulatory framework in the United States. Investment, what's happening? The main point of this slide is just to demonstrate that the typical clinical specialties that you all know of are still seeing active investment. There's a little bit of lightening of deals in neuro and cardiovascular, and this is for first financing, so seed to Series A types of investments. And I must clarify this information is from HSBC, the gentleman John Norris, who's formerly at Silicon Valley Bank. This is, again, first financing, and the main point here is, as you can see, there were some periods of high growth, high investment in the heady days of 2020, 2021. There was a big drop in investment activity, and there's a bit of a return, but this is first financing. The overall economic climate is still in recovery. So you see the red arrows where deal volume and numbers are down, but it's really a regression to the mean of where we've typically seen MedTech deals in the United States, and this also includes Europe. So again, in my view, it's a bit of a return to normalcy in terms of the number of deals and the number of dollars and valuations for the technologies that you're bringing to market. And for prescription digital therapeutics, just as one subsector within MedTech, there are a few key themes that I want us to pay attention to. One is that of merger. When there's macroeconomic conditions, such as the ones we're seeing in the United States, companies like Behavior, which is a prescription digital therapeutic that started as a wellness and is a joint venture with a pharmaceutical company, recently joined with another digital health company, Oxford VR, here in the Boston area of the United States. So let's talk about a failure that's had a bit of a chilling effect in the United States. If you haven't heard of Pear Therapeutic, it's a prescription digital therapeutic that was on the vanguard of being regulated by the FDA, that was indicated for treatment of substance use disorder with multiple randomized controlled studies. It had $1 billion valuation, and guess what? It went bankrupt. Some of the reasons, the macroeconomic environment. Sometimes you can't fight what's going on in a larger ecosystem. It was a period of massive growth. Former colleague of mine at the FDA ran regulatory and quality, and he said, Kwame, they were just hiring like crazy, and it's a challenge to keep up with that heady hiring headcount. And reimbursement, we'll talk about the key challenge in the United States that has shifted from regulatory to reimbursement. And Oliver talked about the robust regulatory framework in Europe. There's a robust regulatory framework in the United States, but reimbursement is having some innovation that still needs to catch up with digital health solutions. Akili is a gaming solution that is in the United States, indicated for teens to help with specific mental health conditions. They've seen some challenges as well. They're regulated by the FDA. Recently, there was a changeover in the CEO, and they discovered trouble getting consistently reimbursed at the rates that they could garner considerable profit compared to going direct to consumer. So they recently made a decision to pivot from a reimbursement strategy to gaining revenue from directly from consumers. So again, this theme of reimbursement comes up again and again as a headwind for these particular types of companies, these regulated products. My only point in showing you this slide is, just like in the EU, there's been a steady drumbeat of laws that have been promulgated to ensure safe and effective devices here in the United States. We are, again, in Malta. And what I want you to know is that, again, guidances, and this is true for all medical devices, have had consistent promulgation over the last several years. Just a few weeks ago, the FDA issued 3 guidances on the mainstay regulatory pathway called the 510K process, and they released a proposed rule on laboratory-developed tests. Oliver talked about how that's a small part of the market that is really undergoes relatively low regulation. The FDA has proposed to more closely regulate these products. Reimbursement. About 1.5 years ago, we spoke to over 100 MedTech companies based in the United States, and this is the main challenge that they said facing them. And I believe that holds true, so I'll give you a time to read it. The main point here is 10 years ago, because of some complaints by well-known venture capital firms and innovators like yourself who were launching in Europe, the FDA initiated a series of reforms to promulgate more clear regulations with a stated goal of companies launching first in the US. This was 10 years ago. So in a sense, our survey and our research reflects that the US FDA has to some extent fixed the regulatory problem, but there still is a main challenge in reimbursement. So what can we do about it? For digital therapeutics, we just want to recognize that there have been billions of dollars invested in this particular field, And there continues to be clearances and de novo granting and launching of these products despite these major failures in the press. We will continue to see key regulations and policies issued by the FDA to streamline and help you better understand the data you need to bring your products to market. As I mentioned just a few weeks ago, there was a specific guidance on the 510(k) information needed for implantable devices so that you can have extreme clarity on exactly what preclinical tests are important, what recognized ISO standards you need to adhere to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if I were to advise someone, and this is not just because I spent 21 years in regulatory, it would be to have a person or some capability to scan the regulatory landscape to understand these key guidances that are being issued or proposed rules. It is a challenge sometimes for companies to keep up with these regulations, and some form of intelligence, either through technology or a human being, will be prudent. There are stated key performance indicators such that at some point in the future, the FDA may adhere to a bit of a good housekeeping seal of approval if a company, a digital health company, a medical technology company, can show that they adhere and have the ability to execute on key quality activities like complaint handling, as an example. Care delivery, we heard about it from the deputy minister, and we also heard about it from Oliver, that the main expenditure is still around providing health care. At Wavemaker 360 Health, we actually invested in a US-based company called Trusted Healthcare, which is a software platform to move travel nurses, we call them travel nurses in the United States, to facilities with the greatest need to optimize for healthcare delivery. So as you think about your solution, no matter whether you're a diagnostic, traditional medical device, or prescription digital therapeutic, think about care delivery and not disrupting the workflow. In the EU, whether you're dealing with labeling issues, or in the United States. And clearly, workflow integration will be and has always been an important part of your technology development. This is the last slide in my presentation. I want to thank Giovanni for having me today. The weather's been great. And thank you all. I look forward to interacting with you over the next couple days. And I'm here for any questions that you might have. Thank you again for your time.